This is Emerge by Desola, where clarity meets courage, where purpose meets power. Every episode is about rebuilding your business, your mindset, your faith, and your story. So take a deep breath, lean in, and let's rebuild together. My name is Adesola Oladumoye.
Every stumble taught you something.
I'm your host, Adesola Oladumoye, and in this episode of the Rebuild series, we are diving into a powerful story, that entwines entrepreneurship with ministry and divine partnership. On the show today is Mrs. Oluwayimika Ekudino, a visionary, a minister, an entrepreneur, a builder of people. Woo, 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 woo. It's good to have you here, sis. It's how she combines being an entrepreneur with being a minister and doing divine partnership, in God's vineyard. You're welcome, sis.
Thank
It's
you.
good to have you here.
Thank you.
So yes, tell me, so who is Mrs. Oluwayimika?
Okay, so Mrs. Oluwayimika is the founder of Pickens Ventures Limited and a wife, a minister, and a humanitarian. I think that captures everything.
Okay, so what I want you to look at, telling us about your story. How are you able to intertwine all of this? Starts from the evolution. Did it start from ministry first to entrepreneur to partnership? How did it start? Yeah.
Okay, I think there's something I always like to correct. As long as you're a Christian, you're a believer first before any other thing. Everyone has been called into the ministry. This is a ministry you are doing right here. So everyone has been called into a ministry. And for me, my husband then was my fiance. He was already into ministry, so I knew what I was entering into. I wasn't confused. And I got married as a pastor's wife. Then I wanted to do just career, work with United Nations or big vision. But then, God is the orchestrator of our time and our season, and He directs our paths. And along the line, I started business, and that's like one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And for the community impact, while I was in school in 400 level, towards the end of 300 level, I knew I wanted to reach out to the slum, the less privileged, and in 400 level, together with my friends, believers, I spoke to them, and it looked like I was scared, and everybody had a confirmation to, oh, God has been telling me this about you, God has been doing this about you. And we aligned and we went to Cheshire homes and we ministered to them, gave them gifts and all of that. And that's how that ministry started in itself before transitioning into several things. When I got married, I had to take a pause. And I told myself I wanted something that would yield impact. And where my store is, I don't want to paint where I live bad, but a lot of moral decadence in the society. And usually when I just hear a story, there's this compassion. I'm just so angry and livid, like this person is young, why will you be doing this, why will you get pregnant at this age, I was just so livid.
So
and
that's where your passion for community impact.
To be more specific, because I was praying and I told God I was not going to start the usual. Usually I go on my birthdays and I celebrate with them and everybody knows. But this time I wanted something continuous, consistent, impactful. And at that point, I knew that was what God wanted me to focus on these young ones. I go to them, I go to the slum, I meet with them, I sit with them. And that's how I just started. And, for the past 3 years, I've been consistent at it.
At that. So, a woman is looking at you right now and saying, Mrs. Yimika, how do I combine being a pastor's wife? Because a pastor's wife is supposed to lead the women, right? So we have the women, we have the children's church, and she has her purpose. How do I combine these three things with my own calling? I have a business, I have a career, and people expect me to show up, as a minister's wife, as a pastor's wife. How do I ensure that it does not overlap, with my own true calling?
No, one of my favorite scriptures is, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me.
Wow.
And there's a particular translation that says energizes me. And the truth is that anytime people call me a strong woman, I just tell myself, it's not me, it's God's strength in me doing all of these things. Because the truth is, I don't even know how I get to do most of the things that I do. No, I really cannot start telling you, oh, you are strong. Most of the times that I've had to take important decisions as regards all of these things, there were times that, so many things were happening with me. And normally, you're not even supposed to move or take a step. But, God just gives us strength. Now, for me, I've always told myself while I was much younger, when I knew I was going to get married to a pastor, I told myself, because I grew up where pastor's wife, there's a stereotype. This is how they look. They are fat, they are big, and all of those things. And I told myself that I am an exception to all of those rules. I don't know what, the society or the community they've laid down for pastor's wife. Me, I will be a thriving pastor's wife.
Wow.
I will do what God has called me to do. And I would live up to God's expectation, not to the expectation of course, people assume that because you're a pastor's wife, you should not be doing this, you should not be doing that. But what is God telling me to do as a person? At the end of the day, I want to be happy and fulfill that indeed I have done what God has called me to do. And that's just the primary thing, that drives me most of the time.
Yes. Thank you so much, sis. That was really enlightening, and I hope that blessed a woman out there. Especially a woman in ministry. So let's go to entrepreneurship. What's your biggest revelation? What's that? Did the ministry start first? I know that you got married and got into ministry. Did entrepreneurship start after ministry?
Yes.
All right. So walk me through that journey. Okay,
so after I got married, I'd applied to different organizations, and they told me, you're qualified, but you're married. And one of the interviews that I went to, I came back so exhausted and frustrated. Because why will I be qualified and you pick a guy over me or a man over me? And then one of the days, I was on Facebook and I saw an ad on importation. And then I told my husband that I want to learn this. And, I was so scared because social media, scams and all of that, but I just told myself, anyway, let me just learn. And that was how I, got into the training. But beyond the training, I discovered that I just picked interest and I sat down with it. And I remember I would keep checking midnight. I would not sleep. I kept on checking and kept on checking. And from there, I had a pre-order with people's money, not with my money. I did not even start business with my money. Wow. Yes, to start with. Wow. I just put out things, I was too lame at it. I wasn't, a professional. And I did pre-order, and from there I transitioned to hair. I had a group of over 250 people, teaching them how to buy hairs from China, importing from China. I was literally training them. And the person that trained me would come to, then when they want to train because I was just doing it for free, because I just loved it. And when they want to do proper training, they come to me and I will refer them back to her. And then one of the days she came to me and she was so thankful that despite the fact that you had another platform, you would still send them back to me. And I said, that's just the right thing to do. And that was how I transitioned into, entrepreneurship. From there, my husband spoke to somebody about me and said, my wife does this, and we got talking, and from there they asked me, can you import this, can you do this, can you do
so
that?
That's how the recommendations and referrals started coming.
That was how it started coming without knowing so much. So I practically learned on the job.
Wow. And
everything I did was just quantum leap, a step of faith. I remember then I was doing US markets. Oh, sorry, prior that, one of my friends had called me and said, go and learn how to make hair. And I'm like, I cannot stand for hours making people's hair. And then it's not hard. And while I was still deliberating, my husband said, it's not hard. You can sublet to market women and just supervise. So just from subletting to them and supervising them, I picked every skills.
Wow.
And I would sit with them. One of my old schoolmates came and felt I was suffering because, I would sit down with them, just local women. And she was looking at me like, I'm like, do you know how much this is bringing to me? And that was how I started. In fact, I started hair business before every other thing that I was doing. That was how I started. When I entered US market, we started selling on eBay, ST, Macari. We were not even selling to Nigerians. That's just the truth. We were selling in dollars, and that was how I started on that entrepreneurial journey. So it looks like confirmation and encouragement from God to you can do this, you can evolve to this, you can do this.
There's so much more.
There's so much more. And every step in my entrepreneurial journey is just, a quantum leap. You can do this. There's so much more, and I'll just jump at it, and I'll just tell myself this is what, and say, okay, go ahead, and I'll just jump at it like that. So people felt there was never a time that I was, ready, like, this kind of preparation or everything figured out. Yes, but it's just God putting me on that journey. And for me, usually, before I take any step, I always like to hear from God. What is God saying? Once I hear God speak to me and say, do this, and then I speak to my husband and he say, it's like I'm flying literally. And, my husband is always scared of, once I tell this girl, go, she's running.
Wow, what is supportive?
But it's because
spouse.
there's God's breath in the things that I was doing. So there's this energy, God's energy that comes with my ideas, and then it just blows up. Most of the time, I just tell people that once you are in line with what God has called you to do, and you are faithful at it, God will back you up. He has that that is that reliable and dependable to just guide you through that journey. Whether you're even still learning at it or learning on the job, he will just keep guiding you, connecting you to people, and all of that. And amazingly, is that not how I met you?
I know. We actually met on the journey of entrepreneurship on a bench in China. That's how we met, on a bench in China. And, so two things that Oluwayemeka said that actually struck to me is that she had a word. She had a word, and she had the support of her spouse. She had a word, she had the support of her spouse. So for every woman in ministry, trying to combine being a minister's wife, for everyone, trying to combine being standing in our own true purpose, in our own true calling, and you have different expression that comes with ministry, is that you are standing on a word. You allow God be the center, and you allow purpose to be your strength. You know that this is what God has called you to be, and you are flowing in that word, and you also have a supportive spouse. Oh, what do you say to a woman who is called to build something stronger than herself, but who is scared to start?
I would say that you have God's strength and grace. Last year was the darkest phase, like one of the darkest phases of my life. And while I was in the midst of it, I had a dream on what to do. And that looked like, why would God just set me up like this? But because from over time, I've learned to just obey God. Everything He says, I've learned to obey God. In fact, if I have something to do, and the financial capacity is so much, once I know that God has told me to go into, I'm not scared, because I believe that He will make everything, make provision for everything. And I remember when I had the dream, I started taking steps. Not because I started taking steps, not because I was exactly fit, but because I knew that this is what God wanted me to do at that point in time. And I'm grateful that I listened and I obeyed, because at the end of it, there was something happened, and then they required a certain document, and it was in the midst of whatever was happening to me at that point in time that I did that. And when they asked for it, I could present it. So imagine that I did not obey, I would have missed the opportunity. So if you're going, the truth is that even the phase that I'm in, a lot of times, can you do this? This looks bigger than you. Like trying to start up something, building, a company and structure, something that is even bigger than you, something that, you want to build a legacy around it. So it's even still bigger than, whatever it was that came to my mind or God told me about. But the thing is that he who has called you is capable and is strong to hold your hand, guide you through the journey, and bring you to an expected end.
Awesome.
And that scripture that says, for I know the thought I have towards you, thought of good and not of evil, to give you hope and a future. So if you're about to start up something and you feel it's bigger than, go to God in prayers. Get God's approval. If you have to stay, I'll wake up middle of the night, I'll be crying while I'm praying. I'll just be crying and praying. Because I just wanted, God, can I really do this? But I know that, God has given me his strength to be so much more. And while I was doing that, every dot was connecting as I was just obeying and listening to God. And that's very important. And in the journey, it looked like God started planting people in my journey as I was obeying.
Yeah, awesome.
I had people to guide me when I was supposed to make mistake and run into financial loss. I had people to hold my hands through each journey. I also had you at a point, when I met you, that was like, I never expected to meet somebody in that line of business, coming from, the caliber of people doing what we are doing. And one of the things that you did that struck me was, I asked you a question, and the way you were just so eager to answer, so I can meet somebody that will be share. So that's just also God encouraged me, because I remember that morning I was so weak. I woke up, somebody called me, I said, I'm not going out of this hotel, I'm going to sleep here. And then the person said, just step out, you will see your tribe, you will meet some. The person was so confident that I was going to meet someone, and I was supposed to go elsewhere. Meanwhile, somebody was messaging me that I should come. So I felt maybe tomorrow. And while I was already going to another place, and the person said, come, take a taxi. This. Okay, let me just go and rush back. And that was God planting you also in my journey. So imagine we had a discussion, and when my birthday is soon, I'll be so yeah. That's like an encouragement to you that if you can do this now, I don't have any excuse. And so you can see God always, God is a master planner. And when we listen and we yield ourselves freely to him, he guides us in the right path. We might not know the end, but we might just have bits and pieces of our journey, of the things that, God wants to do through us. But by the time we start taking the step, if anybody had told me that this is who you will be now, last year, I would argue.
It didn't feel like it.
It did not even feel like it. Now we have demands for next year.
Yes.
And it's not like we have full grasp of that next year. But because we know that, this God that we have is more than enough for us. So you can see that every journey, if you decide to wait till everything is set before you move, you will never move. You will keep procrastinating. You will always feel that you are not enough. And for a woman like us, they don't really rate us. They don't believe in us. Now, I even remember somebody telling me that, you cannot do this. And I remember I told the person that because you have said that I cannot do it, I'm going to do it. Because naturally, society has placed so much restriction on women. Family is there, you're a wife, you're a mother, combining everything together and still wanting to be what God has called you to be. But at the end of the day, if you decide to stay restricted to what the society or everyone has, tagged you with, you just end up living life and not being fulfilled. And at the end of the day, God will tell you that what I have placed in your hand, what have you done with it? And that's why I love this rebuilding series, because for every woman out there, you've either been stuck at one point in your life or the other. But, you can hear people's testimonies. And how, despite the fact that they were being stalked, coming from, I was at a very dark phase of my life last year. And that was one of, the most quantum leap that I've ever done in my life. God redirecting my story, transitioning to so many other things. So you can always be who God has called you to be as a woman. Just start with the backings of God. If you have to take time off to pray, one of the things that I love to do, I take a step back and I settle in with God. I take time to pray, to fast, to hear God speak to me. And one of the things that God has helped me with in those time of trying to get a confirmation from God, He also sent confirmation in form of people. Sometimes I can just get a call and the person is just telling me, what I've just jotted down or what God has just told me, that I can see that you want to do this, and I'm like, how this thing, I'm still doubting myself, and God has already spoken to you about it. So see how God just helps you to bring everything in place to make you emerge. So I'm telling you, if she can, because she's a big inspiration to me. If she can, if I can, then who will drive the private jet tomorrow? Or who will have a platform to speak to young ones? Or who by the time you look back at your life, you see the legacy that you can see your legacy, what you have built, the lives that you've changed, you've transformed, you've impacted.
Wow. And
because we know as believers, we know that nations are hanging on our shoulders.
Yes,
so if we don't make that, you're already killing some nations if you are not stepping out in faith. So just start. You have the backings of God, and you have people like Mrs. Desola to guide you on that path, to mentor you, to tell you where to go, what to do, and you'll be fine at the end of the day.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow. There's one thing that, she said that really struck to me, and which is take that step. Take that step. Take that one step. And another thing that really spoke to me in all of these things is the fact that she had people who could speak to her. So this is why the Emerge tribe for me is very important. Who is your tribe? Who is in your corner? Who can speak to you? Who can hold your hands? Hold your hands through that journey. And one more thing, last one. In 2025, what will you say you are emerging by?
I'm emerging by grace, strength, and favor to take over territories, to surmount mountains, and to do great things for God.
Thank you so much, Ms. Oluwayimika Ekudino, for joining us and sharing with us your story. One Emerge moment that I can also bring out is the fact that, you can see that intertwining entrepreneurship, partnership, and ministry is not just a separate calling. It's building into one purpose for her. And for every woman listening, your story might not be like hers, but your rise is very sure. Take one wisdom-led step. Take one fearless-led step today. If this episode spoke to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Emerge by Desola. Thank you so much for joining in. Until next time, your girl, Adesola Oladumoye.
Okay, your name?
Hi, my name is Adesola Oladumoye.
Okay.
Hello, my name is
Thank you for watching. Rebuilding in itself is not an act of failure. It is actually a proof of faith. To rebuild with God takes strength, takes power. And so wherever it is that you are right now, take that small step right now. Don't stop emerging with grace, with power, and unshakable faith. My name is Adesola Oladumoye. Until next time, see you.